Hey girl, hey! I am Jamia Ponder, host and creator of The Mrs. Beside, a safe space dedicated to the real ones standing beside and never behind. Girl, this life ain't no joke. It's time, let's air it all out. Trust me, I understand. Whoo child, I know it's a lot. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Mrs. Beside. We have the most beautiful Kirsten Jordan here with us today.
Yeah, you're so sweet. That's you.
No, it's you, girl. It's you. So, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today and just sort of stepping out on a limb. So we didn't necessarily know each other, but now that I'm plugged in, I feel like I know you, like we've been knowing each other.
I love it. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. It really is. I'm thankful. I'm always thankful to be a part of anything that someone births because it's their baby. You know, your podcast is your baby. And anyone who's like, hey, do you want to be a part of this really special movement that God created on the inside of me? I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I love that. You know what I mean? So thank you for having me. I love it.
Yes. So I'm super excited to have you here. Why don't you give us a little bit about yourself and we can go from there.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm 31. I'm Kirsten. I'm 31. I'm married. I've been married. My husband's name is Solomon. We've been married for going on 10 years this October.
Awesome.
I love his little face. And yeah, I'm originally from New York. Grew up in Louisiana part of my life. We currently reside in Atlanta. Currently in quarantine in Louisiana as we speak with our parents. We just figured, hey, if we're going to be in quarantine, might as well come here. So it's kind of weird for me to like go into this thing of things that I do, but by God's grace, I have a business. It's kind of crazy. By his mercy, I get to lead worship. So I'm a worship leader. What is that? My husband is a pastor at heart, and we just love loving people back to life again. Marriages. We love doing a lot of marriage counseling. I don't want to say we're marriage counselors, but we do a lot of marriage counseling. I don't really know what to call it, but we definitely have a heart for marriages and stuff like that. So we do a little bit of everything. My husband's got a full-time job. I've got a full-time job. I teach virtual makeup lessons right now, which was a favor of God. By the favor of God, we're doing that. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit about me. No kids yet. People normally ask. I don't have any kids yet. Soon, I'm sure.
Take your time, sis. Take your time.
Look, most of my friends, we're all around that age. So a lot of my girlfriends, they have babies, and most of them are around 3 years old, and they're all like about to lose it. And I'm like, just send them to Auntie. Give them
And that's the benefit, right? You get to send them back.
So I've been told, but I'm praying for all the mamas out there. I know it's been tough. I know it's been hard on y'all.
This little homeschool thing, I'll be like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So
you better YouTube how to divide them fractions. I ain't got time today.
We're about to carry the one in this house. I don't know what Common Core is. We're about to carry the one around here. Yeah. We're about to learn those way. Straight up.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. Awesome.
Yes. Well, I'm so elated to have you here. And for the listeners that cannot see, Kirsten is absolutely beat today. Yes, girl.
Listen, yes. I didn't want you to think I was just, you'd be like, why this girl did the most? Why she got on these big old lashes? But I had to teach class today. So I was like, I'm going to come on here and Jamia going to be like, girl, what are you going?
No, see, the thing is, you can get dressed up to go nowhere. I took my hair down and put on like over dramatic lashes for Mother's Day and just sat here.
Listen, cute eyebrows, lashes, everything is popping. Okay, but Jamia, hello?
No, but I couldn't come on here and sit in front of the goat and then just be just be sitting like looking with the sour face.
I'm but a sheep. I'm but the one that Jesus had to go on and get. That's all I is. I ain't no goat. I'm just that.
Also, speaking of makeup, I know you have a brand Unfiltered, and I have the lip on, by the way, which is amazing. Got on the wait list. Yes.
That means so much to me, man. I can't even begin to tell you. That is so unreal. Anytime someone tells me that, it is just unreal to me. It doesn't even feel like it's mine. I'm like, that's cool. Like,
but it's awesome. It's awesome. I put it on. I was like, okay, the glide. Okay, finishes to a matte. Okay.
I didn't know I was going to get gassed up in this session, and I really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah. I'm here for you. I'm here for you.
Thank you so much, babe.
So, I wanted to talk to you, given the fact that your makeup brand is named Unfiltered, and I sort of did a little bit of sleuthing, and it was dropped in my spirit about just everyday filters that we as women and as wives live behind, sort of makeup being one of them. And I remember one day I was doing my makeup in the bathroom, which I don't wear a ton of makeup, but when I do it, I try to, whatever. But my husband was walking by and he was like, so why are you doing your makeup? Like, why are you doing this? Basically asking me, why was I doing the most? And I was like, well, I like to wear it because it makes me feel good. And he was like, well, as long as you don't feel like you have to wear it to be beautiful, because he was like, I feel like you're beautiful the way that you are. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. The lashes I will still be applying those.
Putting this lash on.
It's happening.
Sir.
The glue. Yes. I'm in second 26 of my 30-second wait period.
I love it.
So, but just in terms of like societal pressures, and I feel like they are compounded, right? When we're married, and especially married to men of prominence or that are in, I don't say the public eye, but in the public eye, those things are compounded. So we put on makeup, or we feel like we have to have certain positions or titles, or we use all of these things to define us. But when they're all stripped away, when the filters are all gone, when we don't have the weave, or we, don't have the positions or the money, who are we?
Yeah.
Who am I? So maybe, what do you feel like some of the filters are, and like, how do those maybe even affect being married, and being a woman, period, in today's society?
Oh, wow, man. I fell into a lot of those traps, those filter chains. Gosh, I didn't even know it was happening to me. And it was funny because one of the things I'm really passionate about sharing with women is that filters don't always come in the appearance of something bad. Sometimes they can appear something good. And I remember when the independent movement was going on, which I don't think there's anything wrong with being independent. I don't think there's anything wrong with, hustling or grinding or making your own money or doing your thing. There's nothing wrong with that. However, I would constantly cry to my husband and tell him, like, man, I'm not woman enough if I don't have my own business, if I don't have my own money, if I'm not buying my own car, if I'm not paying all my own bills, if I can't put you in a purple label, which, by the way, I still don't know what that is, Beyonce, thanks. I'm just like, I'm not woman enough, or I'm not this, boss. I'm not this boss female if I'm not doing all these things. And then I'm not that great of a home baker woman if I'm not cooking every meal and making everything from scratch and, having intercourse with you 20 times a day, or I'm not like, it was almost like, and I'm not, a Christian enough woman if I don't know how to read Ezekiel in Hebrew. And I just couldn't keep up. I just couldn't keep up, sweet Jesus. And
I know.
I was thankful that, looking back at it now, I went through a stripping in my life. I put most of my identity in what I was capable of doing. I didn't grow up with a strong identity or a lot of confidence growing up. I didn't grow up with a dad. I went through a lot of molestation and abuse as a young girl, and then into my teenage years, I had a lot of different abusive relationships. So I didn't really have a good idea of identity, even though I was super involved in church and God was like wrecking my life. There were just a lot of things that, though I was experiencing the presence of God, I wasn't healing from the trauma that I had went through. And I think a lot of times the reason we go for trauma, or the reason we go towards filters, is because unresolved trauma causes us to cling to some types of affirmation, whatever that may be. And we just want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We want to be included. I think everybody by nature kind of wants that, but it's when you have to survive off that, or that is like, if you're not getting accepted or affirmed, then you don't feel whole, or you don't feel complete, or you don't feel like you're enough, and your identity is rooted in that, is when it becomes a problem. And I remember I put all of my identity in the fact that I was a worship leader, or the fact that I was on staff at a church when I was about 20 years old. And when I moved and I got married, that was stripped from me. That was the first time God was like, oh, out of here. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait, this is me. This is what I do. And I went through such a shock that I didn't even know who I was. And the enemy was so divisive and sneaky, because he gave me something good. It was ministry, right? Like, this is a good thing. I'm serving God, but I still exalted my gifts above the person who is the gifter, which is the Lord. And in that, I just lost so much of my identity, and I put so much of my weight on it. So when it was gone, I didn't know who I was, and I was stressed and trying to scramble around for everything. And I think too, there is even a movement now of women feeling pressure to, it's kind of a catch-22, if I'm being honest, because I feel like there's this pressure of finding your lane, and I was very much a part of that too. I used to have women tell me I couldn't be a makeup artist and a worship leader. I couldn't be a pastor's wife and like ghetto nails. I couldn't be, I couldn't be a tomboy and a girl. Like, I had to pick one. And that was so much pressure for me. Like, I had to fit in this box. And I used to want that. I used to want to be accepted. I used to want to be, what's the word? I used to want to fit in the box. I wanted to be approved of, because my husband is so much different than I am in so many beautiful ways. Like, he's so saved, and I really want to be saved like him, I'm just kidding. But even that was around me, and I'm sure you could attest to it. Like, I've had people, come for me because I wear sneakers when I lead worship and I don't wear heels. It's not proper. Or because my nails are long and they're like, you need to get shellac. You're doing too much. And I'm like, but I like Cardi B nails. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
Like, can I do it? Like, what's wrong? I've had people.
Can I live?
Yeah. So I think there's a stigma, not just in the world, quote unquote, or not just by the world standards to look like this, have this body, look like that, have this nose, have lip. Like, I don't think it's just, I think even in Christian culture, there's this standard or kind of look down upon that if you're too extra, then you're trying to be like the world in a sense. And I feel like, but what's my fruit look like? You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of filters that a lot of women cling to, once again, I know I'm bunny rabbit trail, but I've noticed a lot of people, they want to be perfect on social media, and I just can't do that. I think that's definitely a filter. I think we're really caught up in people's appearance and what things appear to be when they're really not that way. And I think the body of Christ and women are suffering because we're trying to hold on to this idea of what perfection looks like. And we're not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect. And the only way that we can bring hope to broken women all over the world is to let them know, sis, it come off.
Right.
Like, the lashes, they come off. The hair is a clip-in. You know what I'm saying? My breath smells in the morning. I don't look like this when I wake up. I got back knee. Like, and I'm insecure and I struggle. And I had 6 donuts for breakfast. And it's just like.
And that was just today.
Yes. I had an emotional meltdown after I had a prayer time. I thought I was good. And I'm not. Like,
and I'm not.
Just being honest and transparent and knowing that there's triumph in transparency. And if you're too busy trying to keep an image for the sake of being liked, for the sake of getting clout, for the sake of getting attraction, like, you're not doing it with a pure heart, and God ain't going to expand that.
And on top of that, when you have all of that, right? You got all of that going on and it's all in the background, and you get married.
Oh, Father
it
God.
is compounded exponentially because the things that your spouse does irritates your own inner insecurities. And so it causes you to react. I recently started, I'm going to take my listeners with me as I go along this journey, right? But this journey to, I don't necessarily want to call it self-realization, but a journey to healing and to really being whole, because something happened a couple of weeks ago and it sent me into a tailspin. Like I was just a hot mess, like just crying and a mess. And I was like, wait, I thought I was over this.
I thought we were good. And
I thought I was really good.
Yeah.
And the reality is I'm not good. And so this podcast was literally birthed out of a place of brokenness because I don't know how much you know, but my husband went to med school. We've been married now almost 9 years. And
I remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's gone through this whole entire process of med school. It was everything I ever knew that he always wanted to do. Right. And so I'm a pusher. I'm going to push you. I'm going to support you. But in the support now, he's graduated. He's going to graduate Saturday. Actually, he's finished with his degree, but he's graduating Saturday. And as happy as I was for him, I felt this indescribable pain, like this, if anything, God forbid, were to ever happen and we split, he has the MD. But he got that by standing on my shoulders. And so I felt like, at the end of this, somebody asked me, who are you? What are you most proud of? And outside of something that I helped someone else to achieve, I had nothing that I could say I was most proud of. And so, it just led me to start this path to healing, this path to really helping other people, helping other women specifically find out, what are you most proud of? Get that thing that means something to you, because in that is where you're going to find your feelings of wholeness. Is you find your passion. I feel like so many times we describe ourselves or we live behind what we do. Oh, I'm a VP of sales, or I'm this, or my kids do this and my husband does this. No, sis, you are important. And so what I admire a lot about you is that, even though you are a great supporter of your husband, you have found a way to, be this, I don't want to say self-made, but to really find the area in which you thrive, like just looking at your, your profile and things like that. And I know that things are never easy, things are never perfect, but until we find out who we really are and find out those things that we really enjoy, how do you ever feel whole? And we're leaning on, and I was leaning on my husband to help me in the same way that I helped him, and it's not in him. And I was looking to the wrong person.
Yeah.
So
that is, I had to realize that too, because when God birthed Unfiltered in me, it was during my worst time when I was broken. He actually gave it to me. It was, when was it? 2013. It was probably 4 years before me and Solomon went through our separation. So if you didn't know, me and my husband almost got divorced. It's a part of our testimony, and just how God just brought us back together after just a bunch of bad things. And, but in 2013, I was sweeping my floor in the kitchen, no job, no nothing. My husband was at work. It was the first time I was like a housewife, and I didn't know what to do with myself because I felt like I wasn't bringing value. And that's another lie from the enemy, but I felt like I wasn't bringing value because I wasn't out in the workforce. But God had shut every door, and I was sweeping my floor, and God, literally, I just dropped the broom, and the Lord was like, you're going to do something for me, and you're going to call it Unfiltered. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so I just get, sweeping. I just kind of put it on the back of my head. And, at the time we were just serving at it was just nothing. And 4 years later, me and my husband, we just went through a really tough few years in our marriage and our relationship. And we separated, moved back to Louisiana. I had fell super publicly. I say fell from grace super publicly, wasn't leading worship. It wasn't stated what was going on. But if you're in social media, like you could just tell something ain't right, something going on over there. I was super humbled, came back home, went through a lot of counseling, internal counseling with my pastors and counselors and stuff like that. And that was when Unfiltered came back to my mind from the years prior. And I was like, I don't even know what brought me such boldness. It was just the Spirit of God. And I was like, I'm going to make my own stuff. I'm going to make my own makeup. Like, I love makeup. It's something that I enjoy. It's a creative outlet for me outside of music. And I believe that I can do this. And so I just started researching and kind of doing all the things that you do in preparation. And the crazy thing was, every time I would try to launch it, God was like, no. He wouldn't let me at the time. This is when I was single, quote unquote, or I was in the process of getting a divorce. God had spoke to me during that process and was speaking to me about getting back together with my husband. And I was just like, no, because I was still very hurt. Even though I was going through my own healing process, I was just like, God, my marriage is over. Like, that is just how I personally felt outside of all the spiritual things that I knew and God's restoration power. So I was fighting that. Mm-hmm. So while I was fighting that, he was pausing this and he was like, you can prepare. You can get your website, you can get your vendor, you can get your lab, you can do all this, you can test all the lipsticks you want. But he would not give me that piece, that green light to just say, I'm launching this. Mm-hmm. So from 2017 to 2019, for 2 years, I just sat on it. Me and my husband got back together in 2018, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. I moved back to Atlanta. We're back together. And I'm grinding. I'm working. I'm grinding. I open up to my husband and I'm like, hey, this is something I want to do. And he's like, okay, cool. That was it.
Like, bro.
That was it. And, my husband personally, he shows me love and affirmation in so many ways, but words of affirmation is not his thing.
Very little.
It's not his thing. And I remember, and so I feel you on that. And it's not to bash them in any way.
I know.
But I had to get before God. And there were times where I wanted to show him my website or I wanted to show him this. And I was so excited. And he would just be like, cool. It looks good, babe. And I'm like,
I'll be like, that cannot be it. It's better than like cool.
Like, I need you to be like, oh my God, no, I wouldn't get into that. None of it. Nope. And I remember going before God and weeping before him and just getting on my face and crying out to the Lord and just being like, Lord, like, man, I really need this. Like, I'm scared. Like, I wasn't, I just, when you're always someone's cheerleader, mm-hmm. but no one is like, girl, how's that going for you? You just
I'm like, can I get a little mariachi band or something? Like,
can I get a little like something? And I remember getting before God, crying my eyes out, weeping before him, and God, as loving as he always kind of just knocks me upside my head, and he said, the Lord was like, you need to do this because I told you to do it. Whether you get an applause from man or not. And I was just like, and it was kind of this thing where God's like, so what if he don't applaud you? He might not, but are you still going to do it? And are you going to do it with passion? Are you going to do it with vigor? Are you going to be obedient? And I remember I got up, I was literally like on my face and I picked myself up and I said, you're right. I got to do it. Whether he checks on my website or not, whether he could, and it's not due to the fact that he doesn't care, because I could list a list of things. Like, he bought me my laptop. He bought me my ring light. He's like, you need some new backgrounds for your videos. Let's go get you slate. His thing is more of, I'm going to invest in the equipment you need. I'm going to show you. And there was a time where, a lot of people don't know this. I don't think anybody does. I think my mama, but there was a time where I hit a tightness in my, return on investment. So basically, the new products that I wanted to launch were going to cost more than the amount of money I had in the bank, that I was flipping. Like, every time I get an income, I take a big sum of that and I do another order. And I didn't have it. He started selling his sneakers. And if you know anything about my husband, he is a huge sneakerhead. Okay. He loves his sneakers. He started putting his Jordans on sale. He started putting all this stuff. And I was like, what are you doing? He said, I made you $800. And that was all I needed. just for a new thing. And I was working at Sephora. I was grinding at Sephora, but my pay was not matched up. I still, we still had so many other things to pay for. And he said, I'm sending you $800. Go ahead and put in your order. Now, he might not tell me, babe, that lipstick shade is fantastic. What other colors are you getting? I need to know. Let's go on. Let's have a
opal. Is it?
Yes. Is it iridescent? Do you got glitter? Like, he ain't gonna ask. He is not gonna ask me all those details. He don't care about no makeup. Like, he don't care. But what he will do, he'll sell some sneakers so I can get me a new thing. He'll do what he got to do. He'll work extra hours. He won't buy himself that new jacket he wants so bad because he knows I need to make a new order. I got to pay for some shipment. Like, he has shown me support in so many other ways throughout this journey, made so many sacrifices for it in general. So at first it killed me. It killed me because that's one of my love languages is words of affirmation. And I just had to realize, but acts of service is higher than that.
Yeah.
So to me, that act of service of, hey, look, I just sold my J1s, my Concords. And I was like, you sold the Concords?
That's love.
You sold the Concords for me. You sold the Concords for me. Like, the next time you're able to buy those, they're going to be about the amount of money of rent. He was like, it's like, I'll get sneakers later. So I had to just, through time, just kind of shift my focus. And to be honest, I went through a separation. I had my girlfriend. I had some girlfriends that was like, girl, you could do better. Like, you got this. You got them girlfriends. They real loyal. But guess what? When you're separated and you're not with your husband, that pain and that heartache and your girlfriend's not walking through that. You're walking through that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're not having to carry that cross. You are. And though they're encouraging you, it's not the same. That's a whole nother story for another time. But because they mean well. I don't want to make it sound like my girlfriends are bad. Like, they got my back and I love them. But you have, like, what you go through, you only go through it. And, when me and Solomon got back together, we just made a promise to each other. Like, listen, if we're not good, we're not doing nothing.
Like, to bring it full circle, really, it's like, how do I communicate or know what I need unless I know who I am? And the things that bring me joy. So, and sometimes I don't want to communicate what I need. I'm like, we've been together now, 14 years? You don't know me. Like, you don't know what I like. And so it comes from a place of frustration. So then you talk about, okay, now I got to tell you what I want. I got to support you. I got to do this. I got to not smoke crack. I got to exercise. I got to drink my water. It's like, it's a lot.
I'm tired.
But the flip side of that is you lead a happier life.
Yeah.
You have a happier home. You're not walking around on eggshells. And you talk about, like, if you guys are not connected, which I overstand. Okay. If you're not connected, it does flow into everything else that happens in your house, right down to deciding what it is that you want for dinner. Something as small as that, and then something as big as making a life decision. So it is absolutely imperative that as you chase some of the things that make you happy, that you still have some cohesiveness in your marriage, because it will affect everything that you do. You can't just be like, whatever, bruh, I'm going to do me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do you, I'm going to do me. That's not how it works.
It creates a divide. And it's already so hard because me and my husband, we have opposite giftings. He preaches and I sing. He is in nowhere musically inclined. And I don't really feel comfortable in that speaking, preaching arena, even if God may shift me there in times and in moments and grace me to do that when an opportunity presents itself. But naturally, we're just so opposite. And that's why you have to be so intentional, because the enemy will even take that and just kind of bring an even greater divide. And
you jealous of somebody else's gift? Like, that's not your lane. Like, I wish I could sing like, I wish I could preach. That's not your lane. That's not your thing.
And I used to, and I would even ask him, like, one of the things that I would try to do is, like, sometimes it's hard for me to make decisions, and he's such a decision maker. He's in HR. So I ask him, how do you operate in high stress environments? How do you operate? Because this is going to push me to be in a high stress environment. And I need to know, how do you navigate through your emotions? And just asking those types of questions, I feel like opens him up and helps him be involved. And even with communicating what we need, or like one of the things that we did it was so crazy because when me and my husband first got together, when we first started dating, my love languages were completely different than what they are now, night and day. As we've gone through trauma or traumatic events or transitions, my love language as a woman has shifted. So every few years, we retake the test.
Totally.
And yeah, because it's like, oh, and we both realized quality time was a huge thing for both of us. So he knows I'm not a gifts person. Gifts is like zero. So he used to buy me makeup or just buy me things. And I would be like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like Solomon would be like, I would be so grateful for what he gave me that I would be in tears. But that's because when growing up, I didn't grow up with a lot. I grew up with a single mother in a basement apartment in the Bronx, like eating government cheese. So any little thing that I get is a huge deal to me. And it moves me to tears like every single time. Like I'm just emotional, but it's still not my top love language. And he would get me something and 20 minutes later we would get into a fight. And he would just be like, bruh, I just bought you this whole makeup brush set. And I'm just like, I don't care because I haven't talked to you all day and you're on your phone. And he's like, bruh, I just bought you that. But I didn't even know how to communicate that. I was just upset because I felt like I didn't have his attention and I just didn't know how to say that. And now that we understand my love language is quality time, so is yours. Let's do this. And Solomon's, his love language is also words of affirmation, which is so funny because he's not worthy.
I know.
He's not worthy. So I'm always just, doing my best. And even if I affirm him, he'll be like, oh, thanks, babe. Like, it's not a thing. You know what I mean? For him to express it. But I just have to know that I'm planting good seed and good ground. You know what I'm saying? And we're both very aware. Like, if things are tough, he knows, hey, you know what? If I just sit here and like for you, if you guys just go and look at microphone equipment for your podcast, if quality time's your thing, like you'd be like, this is awesome. We're just looking at stuff for my podcast. Or, if it's, words of affirmation, like, hey, just tell me can you just tell me I'm doing a good job? And just text it to me. You didn't even got to say it. Just tell me, hey, I'm proud of you. Right. That means so much to me. I need you to know that means a lot to me. And I told my husband, I said, every time you tell me you're proud of me, I feel like it's my dad telling me they're proud of me. And he's like, that's kind of weird. And I said, I know. I said, but it's because I didn't grow up with one. Yeah. You are just my most ideal vision of a male figure in my life. And he was like, okay, because he grew up with both parents and I really only grew up with my mom. And so I had to learn to take the risk in being vulnerable in my marriage, because if I didn't, it would be at stake. I had to learn to say, hey, because I didn't grow up with a dad, sometimes I might put a little too much pressure on you to kind of be that leader in my life. And that's not fair to you. And because that's not fair to you, I'm going to work on me. But I also want you to know that your words hold heavy weight in my life because I'm not going to hold you to an unrealistic standard. But when you tell me, hey, babe, you look really nice today, that means a lot to me because I didn't grow up with a dad telling me how beautiful I was. Right. When you tell me, hey, Kirsten, I'm really proud of you, that means a lot to me because I didn't grow up with a dad telling me, hey, baby girl, I'm proud of you. And I had to open up to him about that. Yeah. And when I did, it just made so much more sense to him, where he was like, wow, like, okay, I get it now. I get why this means so much. You're not just being emotional. Right. You're not being needy. You're not just being a woman. You've gone through some things. Right. And because of that, these are plants that need a little bit more water than others. And I get that. So being vulnerable is
it is a huge, and it's a risk. And some of the things you don't even realize, like I was telling a girlfriend of mine, we are literally walking around and married and moms with carrying trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it affects every single way that you do every single thing. And so, it's so important that you say that and that you really emphasize communication in the marriage. And even when it feels silly, when it feels like it's futile, it's uber important. Yeah. That you communicate what you need, but that you figure that out and communicate what you need. So I'm going to ask you this last question, and then you can tell us where we can find you online. But what does it mean? What does the Mrs. Beside mean to you?
Oh, man, the Mrs. Beside. Listen, I think it means to me where I put my hope and where I put my identity. I love being a wife. I love my husband. I take pride in being his wife, and I'm not ashamed of that, but I can't put my hope in it. Yeah. And I think for a very long time, because of what we just talked about, any trauma that I experienced, I did. And I made my husband my savior. And it wasn't fair to him. And I think for me, the misses aside, I really didn't get to this healthy stage of my value, of my worth, of my identity until my late 20s. And that was, I mean, I've almost been married for 10 years, and I just think, man, I done put my husband through it. And just finding that I'm still a daughter of God, and there are parts of me that are still a little girl. There are parts of me that are still healing. There are parts of me that still need to be that little girl in God's arms or on his lap and just being held. Like, when you don't get certain things and you go through it, you have to heal from it. I'm thankful for God taking my past and any opportunity and turning it around. And I'm forever grateful for that. But I think the misses besides to me is that my identity and my source of it has to be at all times, no matter how successful, no matter how prominent, no matter who I think I am or what I think I can do, my value, my worth, all of it has to be in who God says that I am, in my relationship with him. And not just like, oh yeah, I know some scriptures and, you know, if you're in Christ, you're a new creation and Song of Solomon, like, it has to be authentic and real and vulnerable and broken every single day. It just has to, just because I've been in the place where it's not. I've been in the place where I put my worth and my affirmation in things or people or accomplishments or abilities, and it fails every single time. Every single time I'm left in broken pieces all over the floor. And the only one there that's picking them up is me and Jesus. And so just kind of sitting before God and just reminding myself that I have a father and I have a savior who just loves me and infathomably and like just understands everything that I go through, even when I don't vocalize it. He just knows exactly what I need, even when I feel lonely, you know, or when I feel like no one understands. I can just sit before him and just kind of be. I don't have to work. I don't have to strive. I can just sit there, cry, weep, write, yell, dance, sing, whatever. And God takes all of it. And I just feel like the misses beside is also the titles beside. It's also the filters beside. It's also the accomplishments beside. It's everything that I put my worth in. Mm-hmm. It's beside. It's all of that, because the only thing that matters is who God says that I am and how he views me and how he sees me. So, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I love you. I be trying not to get emotional. I took my lashes off. In the middle of this.
On purpose.
On purpose, Jesus.
I'm going to give our listeners their last moment to ponder and just remind people it's time to come from behind the filters to see who we really are. Find out, what do you enjoy? Where do your passions lie? And chase that thing, because in that space is your freedom. So remind our listeners rather, where they can find you online and where they get them this fabulous lipstick.
You're so cute. Oh man. Well, I got a website, unfiltermebeauty.com. My Instagram and my YouTube is Alexandra J. It's spelled kind of funny. I'll text it to you, but it's spelled funny because I didn't want my past people finding me. You know, that's why everybody's like, why is your name? My middle name's Alexandria. So I was like, I'll just go by my middle name. So that's why it's not Kirsten Jordan or anything real. But yeah, those are really the only platforms I have. I'm not on anything else besides Instagram and YouTube and on Unfiltered. So I'm so thankful. Thank you so much again for having me and engaging in conversation. And I'm honored.
Amazing.
Love what you're doing, and I think it's going to impact a lot of women and create a safe place for women who feel like they're in shadows to come out of hiding and fulfill the purpose and calling on their lives. So
you're more than just the Mrs. Beside. Love you guys to life, and we will be seeing you next episode.